Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva naruttam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat nashtaprayesha bhatreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhakta bhavati nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mama Jnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namo. Naya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gautase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubheva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Chapter number 26. Text number 123. Narada Vacha Saikada Maheshwaso Ratham Panchashavam Ashugam Dusham Dvichakram Ekasham Trivenu Panchabandhuram Ekarashmi Ekanidam Dvikubaram Panchapraharanam Sapta Varutam Panchavikramam Haimopaskaram Aruhya Swarnavarmakshaye Shudhi Ekadashchamunataha Panchaprashtham Magadvanam. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. We have a mic. Please read.
The great sage Narad continued, My dear king, once upon a time King Puranjana took up his great bow and equipped with golden armor and quiver of unlimited arrows and accompanied by 11 commanders. He sat on his chariot driven by 5 swift horses and went to the forest named Panchaprastha. He took with him in that chariot 2 explosive arrows. The chariot itself was situated on 2 wheels and 1 revolving axle. On the chariot were 3 flags, 1 rein, 1 chariot driver, 1 seating place, 2 poles to which the harness was fixed, 5 weapons and 7 coverings. The chariot moved in 5 different styles and 5 obstacles lay before it. All the decorations of the chariot were made of gold.
So, Hare Krishna, welcome back. We are discussing the Puranjana story here, which Narad Muni is speaking to King Bharishat. And he's telling Barishat, who was engaged in performing yajna, which was a prescribed yoga dharma for that time, but he had lost the purpose. He, on the course of doing the activity, uh, any one of you have that experience, or would you acknowledge this? At times, when we focus too much on activities, we forget the purpose for what we're doing for whom we are doing, what is our objective about it. How many of you agree with that? So therefore, Krishna says, don't become too much result oriented. When we become too much result oriented, we become highly action driven. And we become action driven, then we lose the purpose. So he kind of got distracted with his purpose, although he gave a good advice to his sons, Prachetas, but he started performing yoga for the purpose of getting elevated to heavenly planners and fruitive results. So Narad Muni comes and he begins to explain to him the story of an ancient king by the name of Purañjana, who are finally wandering all over the world, have decided to settle down in Bharatvarsh. And there, while walking through the forest, he saw a beautiful woman. So, who is Puranjana refers to? So, there's a little complicated analogy. Who is Puranjana? And as part of the analogy, Puranjana is a living entity, Jiva. All right. Who is the queen? Who is the lady he found and eventually became the queen? Material intelligence. When living entity comes in contact with the material intelligence, then his material life begins. The material intelligence begins to make plans for enjoyment. And along with material intelligence comes mind, and then the 10 senses, five working senses, and five knowledge acquiring senses. And then there are sense objects and whatnot. So, all that has been discussed in the previous chapter. Puranjana gets married and all that. Now, in this chapter, what we're going to see is Puranjana leaves his wife and goes to the forest. As a result of it, his wife becomes upset. Now, this is not a real story, it's an allegory. So, what does this allegory means? Which means so material intelligence, you want to write down these two things because otherwise it'll be a little difficult to see what's happening. So, the queen represents the pious material intelligence. So, now this chapter talks about what happens when a living entity acts against the pious intelligence, which means what happens when a living entity takes to sinful life. That will be the discussion in this chapter. So, what this chapter will describe is how Puranjana went to the forest and began to engage in indiscriminate killing of animals. So, allegorically, it refers to how a living entity, when he gives up listening to his pious intelligence, begins to perform sinful actions. That's the first part of it. This is the discussion. Prabhupada gives another angle to this allegory. Prabhupada says, in the purpose, he will explain the queen in this context, highly centered to context. In this context, Prabhupada will explain in this chapter, in this and the next, the queen represents spiritual intelligence. So now you write in what happens spiritual intelligence. So the second part of allegory is the queen does not represent pious intelligence; it represents spiritual intelligence. So here Prabhupada will make a very important point. Prabhupada will bring this allegory in the context of husband-wife relationship. So wife is representing spiritual intelligence, which means wife is representing Krishna conscious person. And then Prabhupada talks about how important it is to have a spouse who is Krishna conscious. And then how one can practice spiritual life peacefully. So these are two angles you'll see in this discussion. So it was important for me to establish this because otherwise you will see translations are saying one thing and Prabhupada purports are saying another thing. Is that clear how this is going on? All right. So let's take a look at this analogy briefly. Okay. Another thing beforehand we can note down. Another very important thing going to happen in this discussion. So what happens? King goes to the forest. He begin to engage in sinful activities, killing of animals and whatnot. And then Prabhupada will talk about what is Vedic perspective on killing of animals. And Prabhupada brings a very important point. Nothing. Lord does not restrict anything. You want to enjoy your life? Enjoy your life. Lord is not saying no from eating, from sleeping, from eating or defending. Krishna doesn't say that. Shastra doesn't say that. Doesn't say stop eating, stop sleeping, stop defending and mating and all that. What Lord's focus is, or what Shastra's focus is, yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshta karmashu, yukta sapno bodhasya, yoga bhavati sadhukaha. The focus is regulation. Write on in capital letters the word regulation. So focus is regulation. If you do things in regulated manner, then you will be able to enjoy. But when we engage senses in unregulated manner indiscriminately, then that activity only brings suffering. I guess this is very important pivotal point could be for our discussion with public, because masses at large, they have two misunderstandings. First misunderstanding is Vedic culture and scriptures have got too many rules and regulation. And second misunderstanding is looks like Vedic life, our Vedic culture prohibits sense enjoyment. Both are wrong. The Vedic culture is not about rules and regulation. It's not about rules, it's about regulations. First thing. Vedic life does not prohibit you from sense enjoyment. It in fact teaches you to have a better sense enjoyment. It is not restricting us from anything, even to an extent, not even meat eating. So somebody wants to kill animal and eat meat. So what scripture says, do it in a regulated manner. And therefore, the Prabhupada writes, where the scriptures are like mother. If you want to deal with a child who is very stubborn, has made up his or her mind, I want to do this. So then what do parents do? They negotiate? Yes or no? For example, let's say there's an exam week and the child is adamant to go and play a football match for, let's say, for 2 hours. And you're telling child, don't do this, you have to study and whatnot, and child is not listening. Even if you, let's say, slap the child, force the child, his mind will not be in study. Yes or no? He'll be distracted. So what do parents do? Trained up parents do. What would trained up parents do? They will negotiate. They say, okay, beta, you have to go and play. Let's do one thing. Go and play, but play for half an hour. Don't go for 2 hours. Play for half an hour, come back because you have to study. So now, would we say that, oh, look at this, how cruel parents are? They allowed the child to go and play when it's an exam week? How immature parents are? Or in fact, they're mature. What do you think? They're mature. Why? Because they know that the child will not study if we force them. So you should look at all of the traditions and religions. They talk about a lot of do's and don'ts, prohibitions. There's no discussion about it, possibility about it, negotiations about it, nothing. But Vedic scriptures are not like that. Considering the situation of a person, it gradually evolves the consciousness of a person by not prohibiting, by regulating. By regulating. We should memorize this regulating. So it's about regulation. So we see some of this thing in the puppet. I'm just giving high level pointers here. Okay, so let's take a look at the puppet. Hmm. Okay, so analogy is mentioned here. The king went to the forest. King refers to the jiva, and he went to the forest on a chariot. What chariot refers to? Chariot refers to the body. What is the reference in Bhagavad Gita? Where body is a vehicle. Yantrarudharani Mayaya Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hrideshya Junatishthati Brahmayam Sarvabhutanam Yantrarudhani Maya. This is what is actually happening. Lord is riding the heart of a living entity. This living entity is riding on the chariot, is wandering all over the place. So that's the chariot which refers to here. The chariot refers to the body. Body is made up of what? Yeah, those are the elements which comprises body. But what is body made up of? This is a part of the body. But what is body made up of? For example, say this is a smartphone. So I ask you, what is smartphone made up of? You say headphone jack, charging jack, touch screen, hardware. This is not the smartphone made up of. This is a part of smartphone. What is body made up of? Huh? These are part of it. What is body made up of? These are parts of the
Earth
body.
is the water
These are
five.
components of the body. These are components.
Soul and
This is
spirit.
earth. Body is made up of, right? We should have this Sankhya aspect. Three modes of material nature. Body is nothing but a combination of Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamogun. And based on that, our proportions varies here for individuals. All right. So that's what Prabhupada is focusing in the purport about three modes of material nature because he sat on the chariot. Chariot is made up of three modes of material nature. Okay. Let's take a look in the purport. Purport explains the analogy. In the purport, if you go after the verse Sarvadharman Parityaja and the following paragraph, in these three verses, somebody found it? Can read, please?
uh, Abandon all varieties of
No. Give it to somebody who found it quickly.
In these three verses, King Puranjan's going to the forest to kill animals is symbolic of the living entities being driven by the modes of ignorance and thus engaging in different activities for sense gratification. The material body itself indicates that the living entities are influenced by the three modes of material nature. When the body is influenced by the modes of ignorance, its infections becomes very acute. When it is influenced by the modes of passion, the infection is at the symptomatic stage. However, when the body is influenced by the mode of goodness, the materialistic infection becomes purified. The ritualistic ceremonies recommended in religious systems are certainly on the
All right.
platform of
Those
good.
are things. Next devotee. Now, what is this forest? So he sat on the chariot, which is the body made of three modes of material nature. And now then he went to the forest. What forest he went? Let's read in the next paragraph.
It is herein described that King Puranjana once went to the forest to kill animals. This means that he, the living entity, come under the influence of the mode of ignorance. The forest in which King Puranjana engaged in hunting was named
Panch Prashta.
Panchaprastha. The
Panch
word
means five, which indicates the object of five senses. And the body has five working senses. Please read from there.
The
Nifty.
body have five working senses, namely the hand, the leg, the tongue, and the tail. By taking full advantage of these working senses, the body enjoys mental life. The chariot is driven by the five horses, which represent the five senses organs.
This is knowledge acquiring senses, directed by the sense
Object.
objects. Consequently, the horses are described as moving swiftly, which means being pulled by the sense objects. On the chariot, King Purjan had two explosive weapons compared to false ego. The false ego is of two attitudes. I am this body, ahanta and mamata. I and mine. So false ego has two attitudes, I and mine. The next paragraph, next devotee. The two wheels of the chariot may be compared to the two moving facilities, sinful life and religious life. The chariot is decorated with three flags. इसका वो बनाना infographic. बहुत बढ़िया infographic बनेगा. And we can just share in the group. People will memorize it. The chariot may be compared to the two moving facilities sinful life lasting within the body. Pran, Apan, Udan, Saman, and Vayan. The body is covered by seven coverings: skin, muscle, fat, blood, marrow, bone, and semen. The seven coverings are The living entity is covered by three subtle material and five gross material elements. The word Rashmi, rope, in this verse indicates the mind. The word Nida is also significant, for Nida indicates the nest where a bird takes rest. In this case, Nida is the heart, where the living entity is situated. The living entity in one place only, and the cause of his boundaries are two: lamentation and illusion. What is lamentation? How will you define lamentation? मतलब क्या है शोक का मतलब? We can call it hankering. Hmm? Yes or no? What is hankering? और उससे शोक ही तो मिलता है. मिलने से पहले शोक नहीं मिलता तेरे को. तेरे को जॉब से पहले शोक नहीं मिला 4 साल इंजीनियरिंग में. तो शोक तो था ही ना, नहीं मिला. और जॉब मिलेगा फिर शोक मिला. क्यों शोक मिला? फिर तेरे बाद दूसरी जॉब चाहिए. नाउ यू वांट प्रमोशन, हैंकरिंग. फिर लेमेंटेशन शुरू हो गया. सो व्हाट इज लेमेंटेशन? It arises because of hankering. Otherwise, what is the meaning of lamentation? Lamentation doesn't stand on its own. It comes from hankering. So lamentation and illusion. So bondage क्या है? हमारी hankering and illusion. Hankering का product है lamentation. Read the next line. In material existence, the living entity simply बोलो जरा. Hankers. Again, to get something he can never get. Therefore, he is an illusion. As a result of being in this illusion, the living entity is always why lamenting? समझ आया? Thus, a lamentation illusion are described herein as Dui Kuvara. Somehow, looks like people wanted to defend hankering. Hankering में कोई problem नहीं है. Let us continue hankering. Lamentation is different. All right. Next paragraph, somebody can read. The living entity carries of various desires through 5 different processes.
The
5
liv-
working senses हो गया. ठीक है, पढ़ो पढ़ो.
okay. The living entity carries out various desires through 5 different processes, which is indicate the working of 5 working senses. The golden ornaments and dress indicate that the living entity influenced by quality of Rajoguna fashion. One who has a good deal of money or riches is especially driven by the mode of fashion, being influenced by the mode of fashion. One desires so many things for enjoyment in this material world. The 11 commanders represent the 10 senses and the mind. The mind is always making plans with these 10 commanders to enjoy the material world. The forest named Pancha Prastha.
We already read that. All right. Okay, good. We'll read the translation, look at the allegory, and let's see who will describe the allegory in terms of what Nadun is explaining. All right. Let's give it a try. So I'm reading the translation for verses 1 to 3. The great sage Narada continued. Once upon a time, King Purajana took up his great bow and equipped with golden armor and quiver of unlimited arrows, accompanied by 11 commanders. Who are 11 commanders? 11 commanders. Golden armor. अभी था ना इसमें पढ़ा था.
Passion.
The golden ornaments and dress indicate the living entity is influenced by the quality of Rajo Guna. So he's in Rajo Gun. Okay. He sat on his chariot. What is a chariot? Body. Driven by 5 swift horses. Who are the horses? What senses? Working senses. We have to precise. Working senses. Went to the forest named Panchaprashta. What is this forest? घोड़े दौड़ते हुए जा रहे हैं. Material world. Thank you. हम कौन से स्पिरिचुअल में बैठे हैं? पंचप्रश्न. घोड़े दौड़ते हुए जा रहे हैं. किसकी तरफ दौड़ते हुए जा रहे हैं? वर्किंग सेंसेस किसकी तरफ दौड़ती हुई जा रही हैं? Sense objects. Prabhupada says they are running very swiftly. And the king took with him in that chariot 2 explosive arrows. What are those 2 explosive arrows? I and mine. False ego has 2 attitudes, I and mine. The chariot itself was situated on two wheels and one revolving axle. What is this two wheels? Yeah, religious life and sinful life. On the chariot were three flags, three modes of material nature. One rein, mind. One chariot driver, wasn't mentioned, right? Wasn't mentioned, but it should be intelligence. If you look at Bhagavad Gita analogy, it should be intelligence, okay? One sitting place. Where was the Jivatma king sitting? In the heart. One sitting place. Two poles to which the harness was fixed. ये लिखा है, लिखा था या बोल रहे हो? अबे बोल नहीं रहा, ये पर्पट में लिखा था. This you are just suggesting. No, don't suggest. We don't need your suggestion. We need what Purport says. Five weapons. What are five weapons? Was it discussed? We can highlight. I'll look into Vishnu Thakur's commentary, what it says. Seven coverings. See, this is Kaliga memory. We just read the purport. Seven coverings, seven coverings. The chariot moved in five different styles. There was five obstacles, right? Five different styles. I'm not sure if it's mentioned. And all the decorations chariot were made out of gold. What does it mean? All the decorations of the chariot were made of gold. सोचोगे अभी ये बड़ी कहानी की छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल है, वही हमारे दिमाग में फिट नहीं हो रहा है. राजा सिटिंग ऑन द चैरियट, व्हिच मींस मोड ऑफ पैशन. द किंग वाज diva was driven by passion. He was in passion, influenced by passion. Okay. Text number 4. Please read the translation.
It was almost impossible for the king Puranjan to give up the company of his queen even for a moment. Nonetheless, on the day, being very much inspired by a desire to hunt, he took up his bow and arrow with great pride and went to the forest, not caring for his wife.
So, if you look at the purport, read from the third line. King Purajan's abandoning the company of his religiously married wife is representative of the condition soul attempt to hunt for, okay, many women for sense gratification. Wherever king goes from there.
Wherever king goes, he is supposed to be accompanied by his queen. But when the king or conditioned soul becomes greatly overpowered by the desire for sense gratification, he does not care for religious principles.
So we already established what's happening in this allegory. So here the queen represents two things: the pious intelligence or a Krishna conscious partner. So in the context of pious intelligence, what is described is all but not listening to intelligence, getting influenced by mode of passion and engaging in sinful life. That is what is happening.
Instead, with great pride, he accepts the bow and arrow of attachment and hatred. Our consciousness is always working in two ways, the right way and the wrong way. When one becomes too proud of his position, influenced by the mode of passion, he gives up the right path and accepts the wrong one.
All right. Text number 5. Translation, please.
At that time, King Puranjan was very much influenced by demoniac propensities. Because of this, his heart became very hard and merciless, and with sharp arrows he killed many innocent animals in the forest, taking no consideration.
So who's speaking these verses? Narad Muni now is criticizing Puranjana's action, going to the forest and killing the animals. And Narad Muni is speaking to whom? Barishat. And what Barishat was engaged in performing? Yajna. And to perform yajna, he had to kill animals. So this is indirectly saying, just like Puranjan was going to the forest and killing animals indiscriminately, so similarly you, O king, for ritualistic ceremonies or purpose, you're performing yajna, you're killing animals. It is a great sinful act. That's the point here. Okay. Purpose talking about slaughterhouses and all that, how it leads to destruction of society. Text number 6, please.
If a king is too attracted to eating flesh, he may, according to the direction of the revealed scriptures,
So this verse talks about how lower nature is regulated, which I already established. Remember the example of a parent dealing with a child. So Vedas are said to be mother. So that's how this being addressed here. Please read.
if a king is too attracted to eating flesh, he may, according to direction of the revealed scripture on the sacrificial performance, go to the forest and kill some animals that are recommended for killing. One is not allowed to kill animals unnecessarily or without restriction. The Vedas regulated animal killing to stop the extravagance of foolish men influenced by the mode of fashion and ignorance.
So what Vedas are doing? They are not prohibiting. What Vedas are doing? They are regulating. Yes, the Vedas prohibit. Prohibit for whom? Those are in mode of goodness. But regulate for whom? Those are in passion and ignorance because they will not listen to prohibition. So it's a negotiation with lower modes of consciousness, but those in higher modes of consciousness, for them it is strict no, you're not supposed to do it. Papa, that's a very beautiful purport. Read the first paragraph. And Papa saying question can be raised when senses are given, when sense objects are given, why there should be restriction and regulation. Who would like to answer? We have senses, don't look in the purport. We have senses and we have sense objects. हिंदी में कहते हैं ना जब मियाँ बीवी राजी तो क्या करेगा काजी जो सेंसेस एंड सेंस ऑब्जेक्ट्स हैं तो क्यों रिस्ट्रिक्शंस और रेगुलेशन लाना है भोगने दो यस माइक प्लीज एनीवन ऑनलाइन वांट्स टू आंसर दे कैन and our team can tell.
I've heard that senses are a product of mode of ignorance. So when we employ senses in sense gratification, it has the great tendency to bring us down. I mean,
Okay,
to more
thank you.
ignorance.
Good point. What else? Yeah, yes.
भोग से रोग.
भोग से रोग. You sound like an Ayurvedic doctor. टमाटर खाओगे तो रोग हो जाएगा वैसे ही बोलते हैं okay what else anyone else we discussed this topic elaborately in Bhagavad Gita. Madan Radhika, yes please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Mm-hmm. Acha. Okay, was she raised her hand or what? Okay, so those who want to speak, switch on the camera, it'll be easy. I can't see your hands otherwise. All right, so what was I saying? So we discussed this in this 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Kshetra, Kshetra, Gya, Jnanam, Gneyam, and Purusha and Prakriti. While discussing the concept of Purusha and Prakriti, I had raised this point while discussing that. So we have senses and there are sense objects. So why there has to be regulation? First thing is sense objects call it as resources. Resources are not unlimited. Because resources are not unlimited, therefore, if there is no regulation, like I guess Gandhi said, there is enough for everyone's need, but not even for one man greed. That is the first point. It will lead to conflict. Okay, let's assume no, we have got unlimited resources, which means unlimited sense object. Even if you've got access to unlimited resources or sense objects, but yet your senses are limited. For example, sleep. Let's say you don't have to go to office, you have nothing to do tomorrow. कितने घंटे सोएगा? मतलब ये गलत क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा हूँ आप लोग खुश होते हुए नजर आ रहे प्रभु जी आपने क्या पूछ लिया हम तो उठेंगे ही नहीं घंटों का प्रश्न क्या है ठीक है यार कितने घंटे सोओगे maybe you sleep for 10 hours 12 hours 14 hours 15 hours how many of you have that experience if you slept for more than 8 hours when you wake up the body is aching if you slept for more than 10 12 hours your head is aching raise your hand see Ayurvedic doctor is correct bhog se rog immediate suffering or not so even your senses cannot enjoy even sense objects are unlimited. That's the reason. Now let's take a look what Prabhupada says. Please read from the second line.
For those whose senses are very much uncontrolled, especially try to hunt for many women, King
कहाँ
Puran
पढ़ रहे हो आप अपने ही फॉरेस्ट में हो। ये पिछला पिछला वर्ष पढ़ रहे हैं, इनका फॉरेस्ट अभी आगे गया नहीं रथ। If a king to learn how to kill may go to the forest and kill animals, why should a living entity who has been given senses not be allowed unrestricted sense enjoyment? At the present moment, this argument is put forward even by so-called swamis and yogis who publicly say that because your senses, we must satisfy them by sense gratification. One famous was this Ashram Pune mein, right? Apparently, although he criticized this thing, but he said, कहते हैं भोग से समाधि, संभोग बोला, ठीक है, संभोग से समाधि, ठीक है। These foolish swamis and yogis, however, do not know the injunction of the Shastras. Indeed, sometimes these rascals come out to defy the Shastras. They even publicly announce that there should be no more Shastras, no more books. Just come to me and they say, I shall touch you, and you'll become immediately spiritually advanced. So, because demonic people want to be cheated, so very Prabhupada brings a beautiful point. This is quoted by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Why these cheaters exist? Why this fake Baba and Amma, वो लाल तिलक लगाने वाली माँ, देखो होगा थाने जाते बड़े बड़े बिल बोर्ड्स लगे रहते हैं उसके. So why they exist? अब वो तो already cheaters हैं. I am asking why cheaters exist. Because there are people who want to get cheated. Another very important point to be noted. You know, when that invocation comes, Om Purnam Adha Purnam Purnat Purnam Adachyate Purnasya Purnam Eva Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. There is a complete world. There is everything provided. So if there is a need, there is a facility provided. If there is a thirst, water is provided. If there is a hunger, there's a food is provided. And there's a need to be cheated. Cheaters have to be there. No, you get it? It's not a matter of joke, it's a fact. So therefore, Prabhupada is saying, because demoniac people want to be cheated, so many cheaters are present to cheat them, which means we can never get rid of this kind of people. There's no point debating and fighting with this. They would always exist. Let's say from the parampara point of view, Madhvacharya parampara, their major focus was about defeating Mayavad. And over the period of time, therefore, they could not preach because their sannyasis and swamis were only writing books to defeat Mayavad. And they were anyways Udupi Mutt and ये क्या था Shingeri Mutt, एक ही गांव में literally. And there Shankaracharya Mutt, Shingeri Mutt का सदस्य, he would write literature to defeat कहते हैं this Advait philosophy of Madhvacharya like this. So for generations together, it went like this only in fighting with each other and defeating each other. And the prachar kind of got a little diluted. And that's the story comes from our क्या नाम है Madhavendra and from Madhavendra to क्या नाम है हमारा Ishwarapuri and then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So where prachar picked up. If you go in, कहते हैं, let's say we got to know Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because some devotee came to us and preached us. How many people you have? How many in your travels even now you have seen people representing Madhava lineage and doing preaching? There's hardly, because major focus is खंडन करना किसका मायावाद का. So Prabhupada speaks about this. I mean, that should be done, but still it will be there. Why? Because there are people who wants that. So that will continue to exist. You can't get rid of it. That's the point here. Okay. Next paragraph. Again, beautiful point. Regulations are meant for
Human beings.
not for
Animals.
animals. And Prabhupada gives example. There are regulations everywhere. The traffic regulations on the street, telling people to keep to the right or the left, are meant for human beings. If an animal violates such a law, he is never punished, but a human being is punished. Okay. Very interesting point Prabhupada writes next. Okay. What is the need for marriage? What's the need for marriage? If anyways there is a free mixing, The purpose of marriage, anyways, can be fulfilled without marriage, of coming and uniting together. Then why marriage? And modern generation people ask this question. I don't know, in your time, people have asked it. My time, when I was in college, this question was pretty prominent. Why get married? I believe today's generation would be asking a lot. In fact, today's generation may not be considering to get married only for long, long time. Why get married? Yeah, उनको बोलो जिसको बोलना कैमरा ऑन करके बोलो. वो can't interact like this. So why to get married? What's the reason?
Prabhuji,
प्रभु जी, मम्मी पापा कह रहे हैं हमें अपने वंशज को आगे बढ़ाना है, हमें पोता पोती चाहिए, शादी करो, इसलिए शादी करते हैं. Why marriage is needed? Yes, Mother Shyamala.
Prabhuji, it is for basically restricted sense enjoyment. Grihastha life is only
Yeah, but I will not agree with the usage of word. Not restricted, regulated is a huge difference. The moment you say restrict, restrict is like a red alert. नहीं, हमें restriction नहीं चाहिए. There is no word restricted, is regulated. And I just quoted that verse. So for regulated sense enjoyment, because if marriage institution is not there, then person would do it indiscriminately with anyone and everyone. But marriage is there, then person becomes regulated. And that's the proper purpose in the last paragraph. Please read out last paragraph.
Regulations are meant for human
No,
beings.
last paragraph.
People have become so degraded in this age that on one hand they restrict polygamy and on the other hand they hunt for women in so many ways. Many business concerns publicly advertise that topless girls are available in this club or in that shop. Thus women have become instruments of sense enjoyment in modern society. The Vedas enjoin, however, that if a man has the propensity to enjoy more than one wife, as is sometimes the propensity for man in the higher social order, such as the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, and even sometimes the Shudras, he is allowed to marry more than one wife. Marriage means taking complete charge of a woman and living peacefully without debauchery. At the present moment, however, debauchery is unrestricted. Nonetheless, society makes a law that one should not marry more than one wife. This is typical of a demoniac society.
Prabhupada bringing beautiful contradiction out. Although there is a law not to get married more than once, but then there is all the debaucheries going on. And why polygamy existed? Because it's one of the debatable point. Vedic culture had the concept of polygamy. Well, polygamy at least prevented debauchery. By restricting to one marriage, it has only led to more debauchery like this. Other point we can just extrapolate or discuss further is about, you can say young marriage. Uh, in previous ages, people get married in teenage years. Again, the idea was to prevent debauchery, but because it doesn't happen for whatever reason the modern society has to suggest, it has only led to free mixing and unwanted pregnancy and whatnot. Yes or no? And it's all over the place. At least West had a lot. So I hope you're able to understand the Vedic ideas and how Vedic culture was designed. Text number 7. Nadmani continued to speak to King Prachani Bharisha. My dear king, any person who works according to the directions of the Vedic scriptures does not become involved in fruitive activities. So, in other words, what he's saying to Prachani Bharishad is, तुम शास्त्रों का भी पालन नहीं कर रहे हो. You're acting independently because Shastra does not recommend this. And what would be the destination for those who do not follow Shastra? What does Bhagavad Gita says? Ye Shastravidham Usrajya. 16th chapter, verse number 23 and 24. I believe 24. They'll find happiness not in this world nor neither in the next world. They'll only suffer. So, like that is a discussion in this particular purport like this. Text number 8. Translation, please.
Otherwise, a person who acts whimsically falls down due to false prestige. Thus, he becomes involved in the laws of nature, which are composed of the three qualities goodness, passion, and ignorance. In this way, a living entity becomes devoid of his real intelligence and becomes perpetually lost in the cycle of birth and death. Thus, he goes up and down from a microbe in a stool to a high position in the Brahmalok planet.
So we were just discussing Yesh Shastra with the Musrija Prabhupada quotes in the next in the purport to this. So does not attain perfection in this life, nor does he attain happiness, liberation from the material condition. So he falls down like this. Traikunya, beautiful purport here. Hmm. Who acts whimsically, falls down due to false prestige. He becomes involved in the laws of nature, like this. Thus he goes up and down from a microbe in a stool to a high position in the Brahmaloka planet. All right. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Text number 9. Please go ahead. When King Puranjan was hunting in this way, many animals within the forest lost their lives with great pain, being pierced by the sharp arrowheads. Upon seeing this devastating, ghastly activities performed by the king, all the people who were merciful by nature became very unhappy. Such merciful persons could not tolerate seeing all this killing. So, this merciful persons indicate devotees. Prabhupada's purport is about devotees' compassion, like this. And hunting, Prabhupada described hunting. Hunting is not animal. Hunting is also for opposite gender. Prabhupada writes in the purport, first paragraph, last few lines. The hunting process also carried on in a different way, as you've already explained. Hunting women, drinking different types of liquor, becoming intoxicating. Hunting means what? What hunting means? To reach out, to search out, is nothing but extension of what hankering, trying to fulfill our material desires. And that's how Prabhupada is explaining what hunting women, drinking different types of liquor, trying to explore different types of things, intoxicating, all those kind of thing happens. And devotees, the people become compassionate means the devotees who become compassionate. Text number 10, translation. Who has a mic?
Yes, Prabhuji. In this way, King Puranjana killed many animals, including rabbits, boars, buffalo, bison, black deer, porcupines, and other game animals. After killing and killing, the king became very tired.
Please read the purport from the third line. What does it mean the king became tired? In this way, King Purajana killed many animals, including rabbits, boars, all that. After killing and killing, the king became very tired. This is an allegory. What does when Narad Muni is saying that a hunter king became tired? What does it mean? What does hunting means? He was chasing after sense objects. What happens after chasing after sense objects? Even if you have done gratification sense object, what happens then? You become frustrated, dissatisfied. Why you become frustrated and dissatisfied? He has engaged in sinful life. So you get a reaction. And that reaction makes you dissatisfied. Because sinful life can never make you happy. That's the point Prabhupada writes. Please read from the third line.
The,
The
result,
resultant
the,
effect.
the resultant effect of sinful life is suffering. Those who are not in knowledge, who commit violations of the standard laws, are subject to be punished under criminal laws. Similarly, the laws of nature are very stringent. If a child touches fire without knowing the effect, he must be burned, even though he is only a child. If a child violates the law of nature, there is no compassion. Only through ignorance does a person violate the laws of nature. And when he comes to knowledge, he does not commit any more sinful acts.
All
The
right. Okay. And Prabhupada is talking about. Okay, okay. This is not desirable. Okay, text number 11. Translation. After this, the king, very much fatigued, hungry, and thirsty, returned to his royal palace. So, what is the return of a king represents? So, he went to chase after sense objects. He became frustrated, fatigued, tired, which means life became full of inauspiciousness. And now he's returning back to king, a palace. He's returning back to palace to whom? The queen. Queen represents what? Yeah, that's the second part of it. The first part of it, pious, which means now the king is returning back to कहते हैं back to wisdom. Yeah, coming back to his conscience. He's regaining his intelligence. Now the king will repent. Are you getting how analogy is going to go, how the story going to go? The king is returning back, getting totally frustrated. Now he's going to come back to his senses. So when a living entity realizes he has made a mistake, then what he does? He regrets and repents. So how the story will go? The king will search out for the queen, and he will find the queen is in some place very upset because the king left her. And now the king will go and regret and repent in front of the queen. And the Prabhupada's purport would be regret and repentance is very important and can only happen for a good soul, not for anyone and everyone. A person who is a good soul can only repent. So now the king regaining his consciousness is now good conscience in that way. He is regretting for the mistake he did by going to the forest to kill. That's the whole storyline. Okay? Who's reading the translation? Yeah.
After returning, he took a bath and had an appropriate dinner. Then he took rest and thus became freed from all restlessness.
Purpose is talking about the life of a karmi, like that. Mhm. Now read the second paragraph of the purport.
King Puranjan's coming home, taking bath, and having an appropriate dinner indicates that a materialistic person must retire from sinful activities and become purified by accepting a spiritual master and hearing from him about the values of life. If one would do this, he would feel completely refreshed, just as one feels after taking a bath. After receiving initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, one must abandon all kinds of sinful activities, namely illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating.
Next translation, text number 12. After this,
After this, King Puranjana decorated his body with suitable ornaments. He also smeared scented sandalwood pulp over his body and put on flower garlands. In this way, he became completely refreshed. After this, he began to search out his queen.
read the first few lines of the purport, what it means.
When a man comes into good consciousness and accepts a saintly person as a
So
spiritual
what has
master,
happened now? The king again has become auspicious. He went, he became fatigued and tired. He came, he ate sumptuously, he refreshed himself, he put a scent, he decorated himself with sandalwood pulp and whatnot. So, which means auspiciousness have come back again. How it has come back? Purpose writes in the puppet.
when a man comes into good consciousness and accepts a saintly person as a spiritual master, he hears many Vedic instructions in the form of philosophy, stories, narrations about great devotees, and transactions between God and his devotees. In this way, a man becomes refreshed in mind, exactly like a person who smears scented sandalwood pulp all over his body and decorates himself with ornaments.
Purpose writes in the last few lines. One cannot return to Krishna consciousness. So, Nitya Siddha Krishna Preme Sadhu ka banai. So, Nitya Siddha, we are always Krishna conscious. But we left and went to the forest to enjoy senses. And we became frustrated and we have returned back. But we have returned back. But how do we regain our Krishna consciousness? Purpose writes now. One cannot return to Krishna unless he is favored by the instructions of a saintly person. Narottam Das Thakur says, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Chitete Kariya Kya. If we want to become saintly person, if we want to return to Arjuna Krishna consciousness, we must associate with Sadhu, Shastra, and Guru. Why Guru, Sadhu, Shastra? What is the difference of Guru and Sadhu? Guru Sadhu नहीं है? Why is it Guru? I mean, Guru Sadhu or not? Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. इसको हमारा GPS कहते हैं, हमारा GPS. All right, text number 13 translation.
Translation. After taking his dinner and having his thirst and hunger satisfied, King Puranjana felt some joy within his heart. Instead of being elevated to a higher consciousness, he became captivated by Cupid and was moved by a desire to find his wife, who kept him satisfied in his household life.
Please read the first few lines.
This verse is very significant for those desiring to elevate themselves to a higher level of Krishna consciousness. When a person is initiated by a spiritual master, he changes his habits and does not eat undesirable eatables or engage in the eating of meat, drinking of liquor, illicit sex, or gambling.
Okay, yeah. And now go to the. So what is mentioned here is King Purijan felt some joy. Instead of being elevated to higher consciousness, he became captivated by Cupid. It describes the life of those transcendentalists who began their journey on a good note but got distracted by opposite sex. Rather than getting elevated to high consciousness, they again went to material life. So if you see in the middle of the paper, simple foods like rice, dal, chapatis. Found it?
Yes.
Please read from there.
Simple food like rice, dal, chapatis, vegetables, milk, and sugar constitute a balanced diet. But sometimes it is found that an initiated person, in the name of prasad, eats very luxurious foodstuff. Due to his past sinful life, he becomes attracted by Cupid and eats good food voraciously. It is clearly visible that when a neophyte in Krishna consciousness eats too much, he falls down. Instead of being elevated to pure Krishna consciousness, he becomes attracted by Cupid. The so-called brahmachari becomes agitated by woman, and the vanaprastha may again become captivated into having sex with his wife. Or
All right. So those are the thing. Okay. And then Prabhupada gives a positive note. For such a person who has got distracted, still there is no hopelessness. Tikta sudharmam chana bhujam hare bhajan apakputa pate tato yadi. Like this. So sense control. Text number 14 translation.
At that time, King Puranjana was a little anxious, and he inquired from the household woman, "My dear beautiful woman, are you and your mistress all very happy like before or not?"
So Prabhupada, what does it mean? He asked others, where is my queen? Prabhupada is in the purport. Please read first few lines.
In this verse, the word Vedisad indicates King Prachinvari. When a man becomes refreshed by association with devotees and awakes to Krishna consciousness, he consults the activities of his mind, namely thinking, feeling, and willing, and decides whether he should return to his material activities or stay steady in spiritual consciousness.
All right. Text number 15. King Puranjan said, I do not understand why my household paraphernalia does not attract me as before. I think that if there is neither a mother nor devoted wife at home, the home is like a chariot without wheels. Where is the fool who will sit down on such an unworkable chariot? He seems to be developing renunciation. Sadhu Sangha is working, looks like. Prabhupada writes very interesting purport. And he quotes Chanakya Pandit. Mata yasya grahe nasti, bharya cha priya vadini. Bharya means wife, priya means priya. Apriya, vadini means शब्द. अगर ग्रही ग्रही नहीं क्या बोलते हैं गृहिणी 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 अगर कष्ट भरे शब्द बोले तो चाणक्य पंडित कुछ एडवाइस दे रहे ओके माता यस्य गृहे नास्ति भार्य चाप्रियवादिनी अरण्यम तेन गंतव्यम तुरंत जंगल चले जाओ यथा आरण्यम तथा गृहम क्योंकि जंगल और घर में वैसे भी कोई अंतर नहीं रहा जैसे तुम्हें खूंखार जानवर जंगल में मिलेंगे वैसे घर में भी अभी तो अभी छोड़ के चले जाओ मैं नहीं कह रहा हूँ चाणक्य पंडित कह रहे हैं रीड द ट्रांसलेशन
The great politician Janakya Pandit said,
नो ट्रांसलेशन
yeah,
ब्रो इफ अ पर्सन
sorry, so this verse only?
Yeah.
Or next verse?
उसी वर्ष जो हमने पढ़ा है चाणक्य पंडित का
Okay, okay.
ट्रांसलेशन
King Puranjan said, I do not understand why my
नो नो
household.
नो Okay, you figure out.
Okay, sorry. If a person has neither a mother nor a pleasing wife at home, he should leave home and go to the forest, because for him there is no difference between the forest and home. The real Mata or mother is devotional service to the Lord, and the real Patni or devoted wife is a wife who helps her husband execute religious principles in devotional service. These two things are required for a happy home.
Okay, so this is the first point. For a happy home, we need this. Fine. Now, role of a woman, but discussed in the next paragraph. Very important. Please read.
Actually, a woman is supposed to be the energy of the man. Historically, in the background of every great man, there is either a mother or a wife.
So, I have a question. So, Srila Prabhupada was a great man, is a great man, yes or no? Yes? So, which lady was behind Prabhupada?
His wife.
How his wife? So that comes first. Mata yasya grahe nasti bharya cha priya vadini. So that's how the wife became the source of inspiration for Prabhupada to quit home. And then who else? Prabhupada's parents, mother. She was so loving, given her right cultural values. So the both ladies acted as source of inspiration. One inspired towards Krishna conscious in a positive way, and one inspired in a negative way, forcefully. Okay. Now, this is for let's say Prabhupada. This is said. We have discussed this. I believe last year we discussed man and woman wala series. I believe I had discussed this point. The way the nature have designed man and woman, it is said woman is a source of inspiration. Man will not function only if he does not have a woman as a source of inspiration. What does it mean? A woman is supposed to be the energy of the men. Prakriti, inspiration. What does it mean? And this is it's just laws of nature. There's nothing to be. Only thing is if we understand how it functions, so then we can improve our responses. What does it mean? Historically, in the background of every great man, there is either a mother or a wife. Whatever man does, the inspiration comes from wife. क्या है कुछ समझे ये आज के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में समझना मुश्किल है because both husband and wife are working, so maybe that kind of conversation doesn't happen. What it means is again prakriti, the meaning of the word three is expansion, to expand. So let's say a man may find himself comfortable in 1 bhk, but the wife would have a family planning, we will have kids and whatnot, and then the wife would inspire the husband. You should look for a change of job, promotion. Maybe we need a better salary, and the man will say, okay, let me go and join some training institute. Let me increase my salary because we need to move to 2 BHK. This is just a very standard thing. I don't know how it functions today because both husband and wife are working. They both are sharing responsibility in that way. But this is how it is described. Unless there is a push, man is generally a lazy person, and he kind of gets settled in any and every situation. But when it comes to a lady, she acts as a source of inspiration. Hmm, hmm. How she acts as a source of inspiration? By speaking sweet words. So let me connect to this. The concept of polygamy. What is the idea of polygamy? Why kings will have at times so many wives? Again, I discussed this in the past. And the why king would have so many wives because let's say some of your family person, you may have one or two kids, but as a king, he has whole praja as his praja as his family. To take care of one family of 2 3 members is so much anxiety. There's so many challenges. Now to take care of a whole praja, hundreds and thousands of people, there needs to be a greater inspiration. So just to have that momentum of inspiration going on, so therefore the king is allowed because inspiration comes from woman. So therefore the king will allow to have more wives so he can continue to function. And classic example, anyone can think of one example that comes from this. When the inspiration of woman was missing, the king gave up his duty. Bhagavatam repeats again and again. We have discussed this. Shantanu Maharaj, when he fell in love with Satyavati, when he went to Satyavati's father, and father put interesting terms and condition, Shantanu came back to his kingdom. Although Devavrat has returned back, Ganga had already brought Devavrat. Shantanu was earlier upset because Ganga had left and took Devavrat. तो उसने 16 साल तो वैसे ही बिता दिए. 16 साल का देवव्रत वापस आ गया, तो now he started to function. Everything was normal again. But suddenly, for almost a month, the king has not come out of his room only. And Devavrat began to wonder what happened. And Devavrat understood there has no reason for king to be in this kind of a mood. And he went to the charioteer. He asked charioteer. Charioteer didn't give details. So he said, where was the last time he took the king to? Then he said he took the king to a house of one fisherman What happened there? And then the charioteer said, well, the king has fallen in love with the girl, and but because the father did not agree to give the girl in marriage to Shantanu, or he had terms and condition, therefore Shantanu is in this condition. He stopped performing his kingly duty. Why? He was not having any inspiration. So this is how the Vedic idea, how the psychology functions. Very interesting thing, huh? So that's the whole idea about it. And therefore, Chanakya Pandit is saying, when a bharya is helpful, then household affairs becomes pleasing. If not, then it becomes very difficult. Like this, like this, like this. Okay. Okay, text number 16 translation. Okay, let's make this as the last verse for today. Hmm.
Kindly let me know the whereabouts of that beautiful woman who always saves me when I am drowning in the ocean of danger. By giving me good intelligence at every step, she always saves me.
Read the purport now. Prabhupada writes, now Prabhupada is explaining about there is no difference between good wife and good intelligence. So what it refers to? Krishna conscious partner. How Krishna conscious partner can help us from the dangers in life. Dangers in life means distractions. Please read.
Purport. There is no difference between a good wife and good intelligence. One who possesses good intelligence can deliberate properly and save himself from many dangerous conditions.
All right, Prabhupada writes dangerous condition. Next paragraph.
Herein we see that King Puranjan was searching after his good wife, who always help him out of the dangerous situation that always occur in the material existence. As already explained, a real wife is Dharma Patni. That is, a woman accepted in marriage by ritualistic ceremony is called Dharma Patni, which signifies that she is accepted in terms of religious principles. Children born of Dharma Patni inherit the property of the father, but children born of a woman who is not properly married do not inherit the father's property. The word Dharmapatni also refers to a chaste wife. A chaste wife is one who never had any connection with men.
All right, so Prabhupada goes in that description of chaste wife. That further all of you can read it like this. Last few lines of the purport. Actually, such a wife can become the source of all good intelligence. The chaste wife. With such a good wife, the family's engagement in the devotional service of the Lord actually makes a home a grahastha ashram, or household dedicated to spiritual cultivation. So now the king's search comes to an end. The maid servants, so the other ladies will now reply to the king where the queen is. So text number 17 onwards will be that discussion, and the king will go to the queen, and then he will begin to regret or repent. So there are only 7 8 verses. Those verses will be all about when a good soul comes back to his consciousness, he repents for the mistake he or she has done. And so rest of those verses about regret. So here Narad Muni is speaking to Barishat and explaining how Puranjan, although he made some mistakes, but when he got guidance from his spiritual master, he came to his senses and then he regretted. So, in other words, what he's indicating to Barishat is whatever is done. Now take the right course of action and regret. One idea of regret is not to repeat it again. So, regret for the mistakes that have been committed and do not do it again is a discussion like this. Okay, so we'll pause here. We'll continue. Tomorrow is Friday, so we'll continue tomorrow this remaining verses, and then we'll take chapter number 27. And yeah, the story continues. Huh? Story doesn't end. Looks like Barisha is still not convinced. So the story will continue to uh, Puranjan, not only of this lifetime, Puranjan's next life also, because he was so attached. In the next life, he became a woman. So that is chapter number 28. The story continues like this. And finally, 29, now when he begins to decode what allegory he has explained, he actually doesn't explain. बरिशत को समझ आया था यार ये तो मेरे बारे में बात हो रही है शायद ये मेरे सिम्टम्स नजर आ रहे हैं स्टोरी में और लगता है भविष्य में जाके मैं नारी बनने वाला हूँ जैसा मैं जीवन जी रहा हूँ so then he like okay I understood the point I understood what you're saying so okay so we'll pause here if anyone has any comment or thing any quick reflections, not reflections, or maybe just quick pointers, if anyone wants to share a few quick points. So जो सोती हुई आत्माएं वो जाग जाएंगी क्लास में नहीं सुना तो एटलीस्ट एंड में जो कुछ पॉइंट्स है सुन के उन्हें ये तो याद रहेगा क्या हुआ क्लास में आज Anyone wants to share quickly? Yes, Tushar. Mic लेके बोलो फटाफट. Take the mic and start speaking. Anyone online want to share, send something?
False ego has two attitudes, I and mine.
Yeah. Aham mameti. Next.
So marriage is meant for regulation of the sense, correct?
Okay.
Sense.
Yeah. So Vedic scriptures talk about regulation, not restriction.
By becoming proud and by influenced by mode of passion, we enthusiastically go for sense gratification.
Okay.
Vedic Vedic injunctions doesn't put restrictions. It just say to regulate things.
Regulate. Okay. Continue.
So, Prabhuji, you quoted that why there are cheaters or bogus swamis. So, you quoted that Ishavasa principle. Everything is complete. So, if there are people who
Not
want.
Ishavasya. Om Purnam.
Om Purnam, sorry. That if people want to get cheated, there are cheaters in the
If
market.
there is a need, very important point, a need cannot exist if there is no supply. You can think deeply about it. If there is a need can only exist because the supply exists. Otherwise, the world cannot be called as complete. Can you imagine? There is need, but there is no supply. Supply, I'm not saying because of our actions, the water becoming contaminated, so there is no pure water drink. The nature have supplied. So having a need, but nature have not provided, is an incomplete creation. So there is a need, nature have provided. Or you can put it this way, whatever needs you can imagine to have, again would be regulated under the what facilities provided by the nature. Even in our need, we are not independent. Okay, what else?
We have enough for everyone's need, but not even one person's greed.
Yeah, this was in context to.
Why not when we have senses and sense objects?
Yeah, Mia Bibi Raja, we were talking about that. Na? Senses and sense objects are there. Why to have any regulations and all that? Jo karna hai karo.
The living entity always influenced by the three qualities. One is sattva guna, raja guna, and tama guna. The mode of goodness and mode of fashion and mode of ignorance.
Okay, thank you.
Two type of intelligent that mention, like first queen represent the pious material intelligent, and then Prabhupada mentioned that queen represent that spiritual intelligent, Krishna consciousness partner.
Partner, Krishna conscious partner. Yeah, religious wife. Anything else from anyone?
So lamentation is the cause of hankering. Lamentation is the cause of hankering.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. So we pause here for today. Thank you all for joining in. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.